Fear doesn't always look dramatic. Sometimes it looks like, well, staying quiet, playing it safe, waiting till you feel ready. But what if the thing holding you back isn't a lack of talent? It's a mask you've been wearing for years. Let's have ourselves a pocket sized pep talk and talk about fear, paralyzing fear, the kind that keeps people from speaking up, pressing record, writing a book, or putting their real thoughts into the world, and how ripping off that mask can change everything.
A Pocket Sized Pep Talk, the podcast that can help energize your business and your life with a quick, inspiring message. Now, here's your host, Rob Jollis.
Today's guest, Rob Genovese, is a brand strategist and the author of Don't Fear the Brand, The Art of Building a Strong Brand That Attracts. Rob spent over 25 years in corporate America wearing the corporate mask. When he left to start his own business, he brought that same mask with him and was quietly failing because of it. Barely profitable and struck in paralyzing fear, he finally ripped off that mask, used brand strategy to overcome the fear, and quadrupled his revenue in the process. Today, he works with solopreneurs, mid-sized businesses to help them stand out and attract more ideal clients, and use brand strategies plus brand mindset to make their competition irrelevant. Happy to have you with us, and welcome to the show, my friend Rob.
What's up, Rob? Thanks for having me on. It's great to
Hey,
be
man,
here.
it's a pleasure to have you. And we'll dive right in. But before we do anything, congratulations on the book. Don't Fear the Brand. Now, you've got a giveaway of some sort. What are you giving away here?
So the book just came out in December of last year, and it's my first book. But the response has been great. So for your audience, just for hanging in there and tuning in and listening to this, I'm going to give away a free digital copy of it. They can go to buildstrongbrands.com/free book, all one word, free book, and just drop your email, and I'll send you a free digital download.
All right. And I've got the book right here with me. Unfortunately, it's a podcast, but I am holding it up and waving it. Listen, you can hear it. And it's a really good book. It's bent up a little bit because I've been climbing into it. But we're going to be talking about fear, which is something that kind of attached itself to this book because it sort of held you back a little bit from kind of taking it across the finish line. How did it show up in your life before you ever recognized it was even there?
Well, to be honest, Rob, I was just clueless and scared my whole life. I mean, when I think back to high school, I didn't speak to people. I remember moving to a new school district, and it was eighth grade, and I was this new kid, and I was in my Italian language class. And these four girls, Italian girls, well, I'm Italian, four girls so interested in me, and I couldn't think of a thing to say, and I was ostracized for the rest of my school career because I literally didn't talk. Everybody thought I was stuck up, but I just couldn't think of a thing to say. And that was my life into my 30s, if you can imagine. I just didn't know how to talk, but more than that, honestly, there was a deep-seated my belief, right? We talk about belief sometimes. I believed that you were smarter than me, that everybody was smarter than me, richer than me, more talented than me. You name it, you were better than me in every way. So that inferiority just fueled my fear. So why bother even trying to talk to anybody when you don't really have any value? And that's what I took into my 30s.
Yeah, and we are who we were, and I congratulate you. You've overcome this. But you do know that it's sitting right next to you, this fear, and it's quieted down. I always equate it to a beautiful mind, where at the very end, when he's coming up for the award, and the guy who's going to give him the award says, "Do you still hear the voices? Do you still?" He says, "Oh yeah, I still hear them. They're right here." But I don't listen to them. They've kind of given up on me, and I've given up on them, but they will always be here. And Russell Crowe is right next to him are those three characters that have been tracking him throughout the whole movie. I don't want to put words in your mouth, but am I describing it properly, or do you want to add to that?
I got to tell you, I never saw a therapist, although I probably should. I know a lot of people do, and I think there's great value in formal, therapy, people who are certified and licensed to do it. I self-therapized. I don't know why. I'm a very introspective person, and I always thought I could change. And that was the start of it. But wait, going back to 1990, somewhere around there, when I had first remember the thought, I don't like who I am. I'm going to lose. I'm going to keep losing, but I can change. And so I just went on a self-improvement, self-development tear for forever since then, for the rest of my life. But really, there was a 15-year period of time where I read well over 500 books, everything from spirituality to relationships to love to leadership and like any subject matter that touched the human being. I read up and studied on it and applied it to my life. So today, I mean, I don't have a lot of fears, and I'm not sure why. When you say they're sitting right there, I see it a lot in the world. I don't know what it is that allows me to just not even sense it anymore. It could have been, immersing myself in such, talented leaders and authors and speakers that I don't even really notice it anymore. And I think because the thought that I keep coming back to, Rob, is people are people, and I'm not better than anybody else, and nobody's better than me. And when I look at it that way, I think the president of the United States is just a guy. Any leader is just a person, a celebrity that people fawn over. They're just a person. They go to the bathroom. They get sick. They throw up just like the rest of us. Like they're not. Nobody is immune from life's obstacles, blows. Nobody is, and I think I just take that with me every day and go, we're just people, man. It's good to be here. And I look at you as a friend. And that's all that I take with me.
Yeah. My dad used to tell me, I think it was sort of that old school saying, you see that guy over there? He puts his pants on the same way you do, one leg at a time. I think we all heard that one at some point while we were growing up, and yet it was really solid thinking. There was some other stuff I'm not so sure about, but that was a good one. And it helped me because I think we all have that voice. It's just a matter of how loud the voice is. Yours was loud. In listening to you, I'm going to play back some other words you said. I get them mostly right. You said, I was quiet and I didn't react the way I wanted to, and I was ostracized for the rest of my high school career or whatever. Yeah. Now, you understand that's the voice talking, right? Because I'm quite sure if we spoke to students or I followed you back to your reunion, people go, what are you talking about? But in your head, that's where it was.
Well, I got a story for you. And this is gonna put what you just said into very proper perspective. This was somewhere in the mid 90s. So I graduated high school in 85. So somewhere in the mid 90s, I'm playing racquetball with a friend of mine. And we go to the racquetball courts and we're waiting for the court to open up. And so I'm sitting on the bench outside the court, lacing up my sneakers. And I look up, I put my head up, and facing me on the other bench is this guy I know from school. And I go, hey, Mike. I go, hey, how you doing? And he looks up and he goes with a confused look. He's like, oh, hey, how you doing? I go, hey, it's me, Rob Genovese. He goes, oh, hey, what's up? I was like, Mike, we went to high school together, class of 85. We were in the same homeroom together. I sat 2 seats behind you. He's like, oh, okay. I'm like, Mike, you lived behind me, one house down in the neighborhood. Like I was the invisible man, Rob, and I'm not kidding you. I was the invisible man. And that was partly probably me, my perception of it, but a lot it was reality because it was, 600 kids in my graduating class, which is kind of large. So you can get lost. But, that voice reinforcing what I believed you thought about me did echo for so many years. And yeah, a lot of it was me. And it was probably self-ostracization, if there's such a word, that I pulled myself out of social circles. And so, yeah, that fear was ingrained. And so it took that journey to really kind of, and I did some funky stuff over the years to get rid of that fear. So I don't tell everybody some of the things I did, probably weird things to some people, in order to get over it, but you do what you got to do.
Yeah, well, whatever you did, it worked because when I met you, a year ago or whatever it was, and I was on your podcast. What's that podcast name again?
The Master Connector Show. It's a weekly LinkedIn Live.
Great
My
show.
buddy
Really
Steve
enjoyed
Spiro.
being a guest on it. Really. But I
Thank you.
met you and walked away going, well, there's a confident guy. I mean, would have never known. I'm telling you, and I'm not going to be your therapist. Mike got it wrong. Mike was probably not paying attention, whoever this Mike guy is. I don't think Mike speaks for the other 558 of those students that graduated. I think we all have, I graduated from a group of 537, I believe it was. So pretty good size. And, we all kind of downsized into the pockets of people, but I'll let you go on that. How about when you went into business, and you're trying to start your own business? Had you had you climbed this mountain yet and got it conquered, or was it still kind of tracking you, this fear?
I'll tell you where it really started to become clear. I'd always wanted to own my own business. I was a corporate guy for over 25 years, managing creative teams. Very fickle industry. And my second layoff in 2015, I decided, you know what, I can't keep putting my future, my family's future, in the hands of some company. Because first time I got laid off, it was due to economics. The second time it was economics, but they got rid of me versus the person who wrecked the department because of politics. And I thought, and I was a high performer. Later on in my career, I was a very high performer. Turned around an entire creative department in 6 months with just me and a freelancer. Two staff members had went on medical leave. They were unprofitable. They were 2 weeks behind in their schedule. I mean, it was bad. And I turned everything around. The vice president was like, I don't know what you're doing. I don't really care what you're doing. Just keep doing your carte blanche. And then 2 years, almost to the day, they got rid of me, and they knew that they didn't really want to get rid of me. They had to, out of politics. So I went home and I was like, I'm starting a business. And, my fearless part didn't come there. I developed confidence where I was able to talk to people. But then there was the mask, like you were saying in the intro. It was, I'm going to start a business. Now, I'm a formerly trained graphic designer. That's my degree, a degree in advertising and graphic design. And so I figured, what am I going to do? I'll leverage the one skill I have. I'll be a designer. And I thought, well, selling design is hard. Oh, I'll design websites. Everybody needs one. Everybody has one, or, that needs to be updated, or they need a new one. So I did that, and clients came easy. Clients came fast. Profitability did not. And the reason for that, I discovered, was one day I'm having a conversation with, you're going to love this, Lou, the Italian contractor from New York, right? Everybody already got a picture of this guy.
I can hear the voice in my head. Yeah. How you doing?
So he calls me up and he's like, I need a website. The last guy couldn't help me, so I need help. Can you help me? I'm like, sure. Now, it was at a point where it was a little slow. I really needed the money. And, in a very competitive world of website design, you can't swing your arms in the New York tri-state area without hitting 50, web designers who are willing to do the job for nothing. So I wanted to nail it. So I took a strategic approach, and I interviewed him for about an hour or so and got to the bottom of his business challenges, which I hadn't done before. I was just selling design from a very kind of visceral, visual perspective. But I got to the heart of his problems in business, and he threw the word brand in there as this new guy to the space, the underdog, a very crowded space. And so when I gathered all the info from the interview, I went home and I created a website design. I wrote the marketing copy. I did a presentation. I designed him one logo. He didn't ask me to, but I designed him a logo because I figured this has to be a package. He said brand. I'm going to give him a brand. And when I presented it to him, he sat in his little office there. I had my laptop open. He's sitting in his office chair, and people can't see this, but he was sitting there rocking back and forth with his hand on his chin, stroking his chin like an evil genius. And he was silent for what seemed like 15 minutes. I think it was only like 15 seconds. And if you know any Italians, you don't know if he's going to kiss you or he's going to smack you. Either one of them is very possible. So after a few seconds, he takes his finger and he points it right in my face and he goes, "You absolutely nailed it. It's like you were in my head. How did you do that?" And he bought everything. Now, the story doesn't end there, because just because he bought everything doesn't mean he did better business, until he called me a year later. "Hey, Rob, it's Lou. Just checking in with you. How you doing, man?" I said, "I'm doing great. How are you?" He goes, business is great. I'm busy 7 days a week. Never been better, never been happier." And I learned to remain humble, not assume. And I said, what do you owe your success to? Just like this. He goes, the brand stuff you did for me, everything you did for me worked. He goes, I just want to call to thank you. And so it validated what I did. And I did it for a few more clients. And here was the thing. When you talk about the mask, what people see right now, if they go to my website, they get my book, they hear me. That's not who I was back. This was 2017 at the time. I was a very different person. I still had the corporate look. I had the corporate jargon and cliches. And my website was very corporate and mainstream and polished and very safe. Now, when I realized what I'd done for Lou and a few other people, I realized my clients are more profitable and doing better business than I am with better ease. And that's when it occurred to me, Rob. I'm like, oh my gosh, I don't have a brand. Yes, I had a logo. Yes, I designed everything. Yes, it was really nice, right? I did it. But I didn't have a brand with something to attract somebody to me because of my take, my philosophy, the way I solve their problem in a very specific way. And that's when I dove deep into brand strategy, real strategy. I learned from some of the greats in the world through courses and books and videos and whatnot. And I developed a process and I ran myself through it. And out the other side came what you see today, which is very different. And I was almost like, oh my gosh, that's who I am. And at that moment, I had the mask ripped off my face, saw clearly for the first time. And Rob, I redesigned everything, all my social media, my website. I changed the way I look to the way I feel like me, finally. And I put it up, and within a matter of months, the attention I got online was astronomical compared to the crickets before, and I was hitting social media. And then my profitability 4x'd easily after that. And it became very apparent to me that the authenticity of the brand that you are and the brand that you amplify works wonders over pounding the sales, pounding the marketing, and selling people into what you do. When people came to me, they were already sold. That was the difference. And that was me kicking fear aside and going, I don't care what you think of me. This is me. You don't like it? We don't work together. Next. And I would quickly move on mentally. Yeah. So that was the time when I really kicked fear aside.
Well, you're that last sentence there, that's spoken from a guy who's got a nice track record of business and some clients. I'm a big talker when I'm booked 4 months in advance. I'm not quite as bold when I'm hustling for gigs, but I hear you. What all that told me was Rob's doing just fine right now, ladies and gentlemen. You bring up a couple things. First of all, you bring up something, you're dealing with a sales trainer. Here we got sales on one side and marketing on the other. Well, folks, they're pretty much the same thing. Not the same thing. My working definition has always been Rob G over there. He's what brings people to the table. Rob J is what happens once they sit down. Okay. In other words, that's when the selling begins. And I'm telling you, as a consultant in my 33rd year and helping people in sales, far more people are struggling having marketing issues than sales issues. They think it's a sales issue. And when I speak to somebody, they say, oh, I got more prospects I know what to do with. I can't close them. I say, hey, pull up a chair. But usually it's, I've got nothing in the pipeline. It's very anemic. Help me sell. Breaks my heart because I go, I'm not your guy. We need a brand specialist. We need a marketing guy in on this right now. It's a common mistake that companies make. Why do you think they confuse the two?
Well, I really believe that if you don't run a business, so first of all, I'm very pro business ownership. It's changed my family's life for the better. My wife and I went from 2 W-2s to 4 businesses. So, and it's made an impact in our lives and our families and whatnot, not just financially, but so many ways, because when you run a business, you have to learn at least a little bit about all these things. So I didn't know either, Rob. I mean, I saw branding as a way where I wouldn't have to sell. And in fact, I spent about 1.5 years purposely not putting out any strong offers. I didn't have big marketing pushes. I was simply local business networking. It was an experiment for me to see, can I really attract more ideal clients in more with more profitability attached. And I did. And I purposely didn't sell because I figured if I sell, then I'm tainting the process. So I didn't sell. My only sales tactic, if you will, was once somebody got on a call with me. By the way, branding attracts. It's like you said, branding brings them to the table. So I would have people show up on my calendar who I'd never met before, and they would be like, and this happened many dozens of times. I'm telling you, they would show up on my calendar. I would get on with them. It would be no more than a half hour. And they would say, so and so told me I have to talk to you. So right there, they're already they've got this warm referral, right, from somebody they trust. Now he's talked me up, or that girl's talked me up. We're on the call, and now all I do is I had this magic question. I asked it of everybody. I just say, so what's the business challenge you're looking to solve? Why are we talking? Because I'm not going to assume anything. I'm not going to assume they need brand strategy. And they would tell me blah, blah, blah. They'd go on and on and on. And by 20 minutes into the consult, the call, whatever you want to call it, I never called it a sales call. It's like, we're just going to talk. I would go, okay, it sounds like brand strategy can help you. I said, 100%. You talk about the confidence thing, 100%. I can help you. Here's how this works. Right? I don't ask people. You got to lead people. Here's how this works. And I would take the next 5 minutes, explain my process, and I'll say, and here's the result you will receive. And for that, and here's where most people get afraid, right? Even in sales. And this is part of the sales, my sales process anyway. Lastly, the thing I would say, and for that, it costs X amount of dollars. Should I send you the payment link now? And that's what I did. Whether it's right or wrong, you're the sales trainer. I never took a sales training course, but it worked.
Okay, so,
right, so
let me break you down a little bit, Rob. Wait, hang tight. I got to just jump in because you are systematically ticking off sales tactic after sales tactic after sales tactic. You're what we call an unconscious competent, okay? Kind of a guy who showed up at the golf course and you got a natural swing. For instance, I know you're one of these guys, you probably don't even like the word selling, okay? But
no.
You're a guy who asks questions and listens to the response. Do you know how important that is in selling? And most salespeople, the first thing we have to wrestle them away from is stop telling me about your solution and ask questions. Well, you're a naturally curious guy. It may fit into your personality. So you're very unconsciously competent there. You earn the right to make a recommendation. So after you've been asking questions and listening, lo and behold, you have an idea based on what they told you. Okay. Oh, and by the way, I don't think you were asking them, do you think, the Lakers are going to win the NBA championship? You're asking about things that you know about, you have solutions to, and you know how to fix that problem if, in fact, it is an issue. So you really track. I just want to make you a little more comfortable with the fact that you're tracking it right down. The only part that really shocked me was then you swung it to an assumptive close, which that's what the big boys do. I don't even do a whole lot of assumptive closing. So then you took a really aggressive tactic for a guy who doesn't sell at all. However, what you just demonstrated to everyone also was you're not afraid to ask for somebody's business. Okay. But because you, in your unconsciously competent mind, you earned the right to ask the question. So welcome aboard. You can forget everything I just told you, but you're really demonstrating some very solid fundamental sales tactics that people who've been selling for 20 years don't necessarily implement. They become unconsciously incompetent. They don't know that they're not doing that anymore. So
I didn't realize that I was selling, and maybe that was to my advantage.
Yeah. Shh, maybe I shouldn't tell you. No. You just go play Monopoly. Whatever you're doing, you keep doing it. But no, it's refreshing to hear that because not everybody who shows up on your calendar, they all know they have a problem. They all think, based on a referral, whatever, that it's worthwhile speaking to you, but they're not necessarily sold yet. They're just grappling with, do we want to fix this problem? And is this guy, Rob, the guy I want to fix it with? And you asking the questions and listening to them like a therapist, in fact, are giving them exactly what they need.
And part of that, as you're speaking, I'm thinking about, as I've gone through it so many times, You said something earlier about, you're not sure how you would come across if your pipeline wasn't full or if, you weren't particularly
Right.
busy that month.
No,
And
yep.
and I got to tell you, this is not easy. And this is not a back pat. I'm just trying to make a point is that when I didn't have any business and I needed the business, I knew that if you seemed desperate, you weren't going to win it anyway. So I convinced myself wholeheartedly. I would talk to myself in the mirror. I did all the things you're supposed to do with the affirmations, and I would get on there and I would not care if you did not hire me. And sometimes, probably, it was a self-fulfilling prophecy. Sometimes I would say to people, I'm like, if you don't hire me, that's totally fine. We may not be a fit. But if you think we can work together, maybe we should. Now, I've said that before when I needed the business, but I couldn't. To me, feeling desperate was taking me back to those insecure days. And I got to tell you, I never, ever want to go back to the insecure feelings I had because what I overcame, I don't want anybody to go through. I got four kids and I pour into their confidence over everything. I got three girls and my youngest is my son. He's 19. I pour confidence into my kids because with confidence, you can win at anything.
Yeah. You absolutely can. And it's funny. We're switching seats right now because I'm the guy who was extroverted and still am. I'm an extrovert. A lot of people knew my name in high school. Listen, some of them didn't like it very much, but they knew my name. Okay. I wasn't that guy. And I'm bearing my soul to you, looking you in the eye as a guy who's written books on selling, delivered sales, the sell guy. Uh, it's all peaks and valleys. And when I hit valleys, I struggle a little bit. I have to really mentally slow down because it's real easy for me to sell people when product is flying off the shelves.
Yeah.
But when it isn't, I understand the cerebral part. Hey, Rob, treat this just like anything else. Matter of fact, the character I try and get into is before I pick up the phone or hit the Zoom call is let's pretend we are booked 4 months in
Yeah.
advance. Now make the call. Because if I don't, I'm a little tight in the throat. I talk a little too much, a little animated. So here's where maybe I'm glad a guy that believes in the glass being half full, maybe somehow that is coming to your aid. And I'm looking at you as the guy who was the opposite of you and telling you, I struggle with something you don't struggle with. Maybe it's because of the background you fought your way through.
Yeah. Well, there's definitely something there where, uh, you know, I tell my wife and I tell my kids too, I said, we're going to let you fail. We're not going to support you every step of the way. We're going to let you fall. We're going to let you stumble. We're going to let you fail. I'm never going to let you die. I'm never going to let you crash and burn so bad. I said, but you'll make mistakes now, and I'm not going to bail you out because we went through a period of time. We were on government assistance twice with four kids, four little kids. There was a couple of nights where, I mean, my son was 6 years old. He's like, Dad, aren't you going to eat dinner? I was like, no, son, I'm not hungry. I would need to make sure the food lasted long enough because I didn't know when we were going to get that next SNAP benefit so we could buy more groceries. And I got to tell you, we weren't homeless. Thank God we were not homeless. I paid the rent and I paid the internet bill because, right, if you're not connected, but
Right.
everything else, we were like $60,000 in credit card debt twice.
Wow.
And I think when you're at that low point where you're thinking, where we're literally 30 days from homelessness, losing a sale to me was like, doesn't matter. My wife is incredibly supportive. I mean, thank God for her. She made me the man I am today. But I think when you hit rock bottom, when you've been scratching dirt, I really didn't care about losing this. I'm like, so what? So I won't eat. Who cares? Like, I won't die. And I think that had a lot to do with it. Being able to just power through the leaner times because I experienced a much, much worse time in my life. So, you use what you got, Rob, right? You use what you
Yeah.
got. That was mine.
Yeah.
I don't want my kids to go through what we went through, but I want them to experience some kind of failure because it will make them stronger.
Oh, but that's to me, that's really great parenting. It's kind of weird. Some years ago, I never talked about this before, but no one was hurt, no one was harmed. But we went through a fire in our home, and it was significant enough where we were out for a year. So that tells you what size fire we had.
Yeah.
But as I said, no one was hurt, no one was harmed. I look back on it as one of the greatest things that ever happened to my family because No, it wasn't a disaster. We had this thing called insurance. Yes, it was a royal pain in the butt. Okay. It's not fun. But yet, I got to mentor my kids through a punch in the nose because that's life. It's not if, it's when you get that punch in the nose, and it's scary and it's fearful. But once you've been punched, you taste a little bit of your own blood. You're still standing, you wipe it away, and you keep moving forward. The next time somebody throws a punch at you, not quite as fearful. And I think, in a sense, what that did for you is, and what you were able to model for your children was, this is how we handle life's punches in the nose.
It
They're common. And
makes
we
me think
look
of
at us, we're
Rocky.
still here.
Remember Rocky? He gets his
Yeah.
face beat in, and
Yeah.
he's like, "How you doing, Rocky?" He goes, "Ain't so bad.
Yes. There it is.
Ain't
Hey,
so bad."
when you wrote the book, and this is new for you. Did any of those voices start creeping back in? The fear of, will people like it? Will it sell? I mean, were you able to control that part of it? Because that was new ground for you.
You know, I can't say that there's really any more fears. The fears I have are probably more dramatic in terms of family harm and things like that. That probably never happen. You know, please God, nothing ever happens. But things like that, like people hating on me, it doesn't feel good. Do I fear it? No, I can't let it control me. But writing the book and putting it out there, I mean, you read the book. It comes in two parts. The first part is my personal journey and pain and fears that I had to learn from. But why it doesn't make me afraid to put it out there is I go, this is my message. My message is don't fear, move ahead anyway. Because on the other side of the fear is the life that you dream of, but you probably don't think you can have. And just writing the words down and putting it in a form where somebody can read it, maybe one or two people will read it and be like, man, what a story. I've got to go for it. And my fear of not putting it out there probably would have been more than putting it out there and taking any kind of, haters who maybe call BS on it or whatever. I don't really care. Most of those people aren't doing anything significant anyway. So no, I don't really feel that fear anymore. It's part of the marketing game, right? I'm building my company brand. I'm building my personal brand. I wrote a book about brand. If I had any fear, I would never do anything I do. I'm on LinkedIn all the time. You want to go see me there? Go see me there. See everything. I put my thoughts, my personal life out there. You like it, you like it. You don't, you don't. So what? I'll be here tomorrow.
I want to tell you something. I've been swinging at you from every angle I can to try and dislodge this. There's no shaking you loose. I am now a believer. There are no skeletons sitting to your right and left. You're not coming out of a beautiful mind. You've somehow just shut the door on that, and that is impressive. I think it's a lifetime of success right now. And I don't mean financial success and things like that. I mean, it's a lifetime of realizing that there is no boogeyman for you, that you've already seen it, dealt with it, put it in a box and put it away. But it's impressive to listen to.
Here's the thing with that, Rob. And as you're talking, I'm always making distinctions when people are speaking, like, "Ooh, what is that there that he said that I can use? Maybe the audience can use." And I think what makes me not really fearful of too many things these days is I'm willing to admit fault. I'm willing to say I'm sorry, even if I think I didn't do anything wrong, if I hurt you in some way. And I'm not afraid to go, yeah, that was right. That was me who fell flat on my face. Could you believe it? Psh, better luck next time, Rob. And I think being able to do that, to be able to just open yourself up and say, you made fun of me. Yeah, you're right. That was pretty stupid of me. I've taken away any power, any kind of fear or any kind of haters could have over me because I'm totally willing to just own it and be like, yeah, I did that. So here's the other thing. I will never hurt anybody intentionally. And if I do, I will apologize. So as long as I'm not hurting people, God will continue to bless me and I will never have any fears.
Well, like I said, I tried. Hey, last question for you. If someone's listening right now and they feel they are stuck and paralyzed by fear, it's got a grip on them right now. Give me one small, maybe an uncomfortable action that they could take today, just to loosen it up a little bit.
Hmm. I've got this thing in my pocket that, figuratively, that I used, and it's going to sound completely bonkers to some people, but I used it with great success, and I don't need it anymore. Although I keep it there as kind of a something that makes me kind of laugh. But years ago, right? So now I'm not a big guy at all. I'm all of 160 pounds of 5'10". Like I don't have big stature. I'm not full of muscles. I'm not strong. I've never been in a fight in my life. Like I'm none of those things that people would go, he's a real man's man. I don't build houses. I don't split wood. I don't do any of these things. I don't even like sports, believe it or not. I don't follow any sports. So at one point, I had to be like, fear requires me to be strong and be bold. So I need to do that. Now, here's the one thing maybe I did have going for me. My mom told me when I was a little kid, she goes, you should be an actor because I would entertain myself for hours and I would just do voices and I would act things out. And so what I did back in about 2017, 2018, as I was coming into this fearless brand, this persona, I invented an alter ego and I would step into it. I defined him. I gave him a name. This is how he acts. This is the way he looks. This is the way he treats people with respect, but he's firm. And I outlined that persona. And then I acted like that person because you know this. Everybody knows this. Famous actors are more comfortable acting than they are being themselves a lot of times, right? Because there's no fear in that. I'm just pretending. So I actually had to pretend my way into a bold character until my subconscious bought into it so much that I was those traits. Now I didn't have a split personality or schizophrenia. I didn't become that person. We melded the two and I amplified the bold parts of me that are really kind of cushioned in love because I love people and I love making them happy and I love to laugh and all that. But I don't take any crap either. So there was that persona that I acted my way into the thing. It wasn't fake it till you make it. Big difference. I was in business. I wasn't faking anything, but I had to be confident and bold. And it wasn't when I was in front of people. It was when I was feeling nervous. I would act like this person. And that helped me greatly. That's an actionable thing somebody could do. And I'm hand to God, it helped me immensely. But while I worked on addressing the fears, it's knowing what identify the fear, flying in the face of it, going towards it, knocking it down, and realizing it's just a paper wall. You go right through it. And on the other side of that fear is your freedom.
Yeah, certainly worth the risk. Listen again, the card carrying extrovert. I've got a couple characters. I certainly play a role when I'm up in front of a
Yeah.
room. I play a role. I was in New York last week delivering seminars. I had to play my New York role,
Oh,
which was my note. People ask a question. I had to. You have to toughen up when you're there. I didn't do a whole lot of sensitivity training there. If somebody came at me, I went right back at them. Now I would never teach a trainer to do that, but you better get into character when you're in certain cities because they're testing you. So
yeah.
I get the role. I think it's actually a very solid piece of advice of, okay, we can sort of perform this role of we have been confident at times in our life. What was it like? Get there, see it, taste it, remember it. You got it, you feel it. Now open the door and have a conversation. But that's the character you're going to play. I think we play the one where we get beat up a lot mentally. And when our shoulders are down and we're dragging a little bit, unfortunately, that's the character we're playing. And I like the other one better. I think
Yeah.
that's smart, Rob. All right, let's bring this in for a landing. First of all, let's get back to that book. You're give me that free book. You're giving it the Don't Fear the Brand. I'm holding it up. I'll,
Yeah.
I'll put a video up some
We're both
sort.
holding it
There it
up.
is. We
So
both got them up.
Sure.
Where can they get it?
Sure. So, you can get it on Amazon, but for your listeners, I want to give away a free copy, a free digital copy of Don't Fear the Brand, The Art of Building a Strong Brand That Attracts. And if you go to buildstrongbrands.com/free book, all one word, buildstrongbrands.com/free book, all one word, just drop your email. I will send you a free digital copy of the book. And I promise you, if you read this book, you are going to take something valuable away from it that will help you win.
Bingo. And anybody who does that, that's Rob. This is the other Rob now. I'm telling you, if you get that book, although it won't be verified, please write a review on Amazon. It means a lot. It's a newer book. It's out there. Let's get some reviews on it. Let's cook this up a little bit. I love the conversation. It was really interesting to not only hear about the fear side of you, but see what you've done with it, particularly with this book. So just a world of congratulations to you. And we can find you on LinkedIn, right?
Oh, yeah. I'm all over LinkedIn. I'm there
Yes.
every day. You can actually talk to me through the DMs, the comments, whatever you want to do.
Yeah, he's Rob Genovese. Spell that last name although it does look the way it spells, but spell it anyhow, just in case, and we'll have it up on the site here.
Yeah, that's Genovesi at the end.
Listen how confidently he said that. All right. You said it all. You did great. It was really nice. As I said, I was on and met Rob on his podcast. I don't do a ton of them, but as a guest, but I got on that one. I really enjoyed it. Rob and I kind of clicked there. And so really nice coming full circle and having you on my show. I wish you nothing but success. I'm going to be pulling for this book, and I want others to pull for it too. Good book from a good guy. Thanks so much for being on the show.
Thank you, Rob.
You bet. Well, we'll do it again as well as we can next time, everybody. Until then, stay safe.
Thanks so much for listening. If you enjoyed today's show, please rate and recommend it on iTunes, Outcast, or wherever you get your podcasts. You can also get more information on this show and Rob at jollis.com.